Okay, let's start again. So this is a 10-year weekly chart for Apple. Now, what we've just been talking about now, I've framed the trend. The longer term trend is obviously bullish, okay? It's my slow boat to China. It's about a 30-degree trend channel. And when you look at it long term like that, that's a normal growth. But then you see the parabolic breakout in that smaller channel, okay? That's the recent growth spurt that it has. When you recognize that and it breaks out of the normal trend channel, you've got to frame it because you want to see when it breaks back out and what happens and how to trade it within that channel. So if we zoom in, this is difficult. I'm wondering, actually, bear with me a second. Okay, so sorry about that. Now, what I want to draw your attention to first before I zoom in, look at the volume, which is the top of the three subcharts. When you're talking to yourself and you're making observations, what observation can you make from that 10-year chart? The volume is contracting, it's going down.
Oh, that's the volume.
Yeah. No, that's the top of the three subcharts. Look how when we had the safe slow boat to China, we were going up, but volume was, people were not falling out of love, but it was still grinding up, but the volume was going. So when we start to look at closely on how this pullback's actually working right now, we can actually see if that volume's starting to increase, some serious concerns over Apple, yeah? But if the volume is staying in that contracted range and not really going back to those days of 5 years ago when you had those, you know, this big sell-off just here, for example, that was quite high volume there, okay? But we respected the channel. So let's zoom in. Okay. All right. So on the weekly time frame, let's pull this down a little bit. Let's zoom out a little bit more. What I wanted to draw your attention to initially, it looks quite busy, but my charts are reasonably busy in a stock like this anyway. So we can see this parabolic move out of the main trend channel. Made those all-time highs. Along the way, we got some good support resistance zones. So this one here, okay, really good support resistance zone there. And it's freaky that we're getting close to that right now. Yeah. See? There. Now, because we've come out of that parabolic trend line on a wave 4, on the weekly time frame, now we've tested the top end of that, sort of longer term trend channel. You know, we've got a support level around 160 at the moment, okay? This support resistance zone here is a really strong linear support resistance zone that I've drawn on a chart there. So, you know, potentially now if we zoom in on this, okay, so this week that's just closed, what chart pattern is that? I'm going to change this.
So did it break below the trend line now?
Let me just change the appearance. I like full candles. I'm not one of those. Right, let me get rid of some of these. Sorry, these are from day trading. I need to get rid of some of these. Okay, so I want to talk about this wave 4 here on the weekly time frame right now. Okay, so the week that's just closed, this is a Saturday, okay, And then the previous week, what chart pattern, what candlestick pattern is that? Bullish army. Formed a wave 4. Okay. We've just come back into the main channel. Pregnant lady, yeah. So this is potentially a bottom, but we need a confirmation next week. Remember, fifth wave works on weekly, daily, monthly, 5 minute, 2 minute, 1 minute. So this is really, really interesting right now. And when we do the next session with this course at the end of January, it'll be interesting to see where we go, because we're only just coming to the green zone of the wave 4 pullback. Okay.
To break down below 170, that would be bear market, right?
No, because we're in our pullback zone here. Okay. And we've got a big support resistance zone there at 160. Okay. We've got the bottom end of our main channel. Well, obviously that's linear, say 155. Then we've got some smaller support resistance zones in there that I've drawn in. So in reality, as far as our fib pullback zones are concerned, we are okay on the 535 oscillator. We're okay on the stochastic. It's just crossing over in the oversold zone. Guess what? We actually got an accumulation week last week, which is very unusual for a bullish army. So it'll be interesting to see how that week goes next week. We've just become between 90 and 140% on the 535. This is all looking good, but we need confirmation next week, and then we need to start looking for another entry. But we have got potential for this to go down further. So sometimes when you get that bullish army, if we don't get the confirmation next week, it will go down and test lower lows. And this 160 area, that zone here, is really, really crucial. Okay. So now let's take that to the daily time frame. This is a weekly. Yep. Okay. Again, we're not looking for an entry until we get confirmation. So we need a higher high, higher low next week so we can be above the upper bound of the trend channel. We've got to make sure we close out of there. We won't be entering Apple next week, okay, unless it goes hell for leather. What we need is to close either on.
Can you ask me about Apple now?
Yeah.
You don't. I mean, I know this is not. It's not technical. My question is not technical, but after Steve Jobs died, they haven't really come up with any new product innovation or anything. Do you think this is going to continue the upward? I mean, they haven't come up with any new product really.
I think.
When he was doing some, when he was alive, there was something.
No, I think the next thing is the roll-up phone and all that sort of stuff. So who can come out with that first? We're really cool. Yeah, yeah.
Which one was it?
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They really haven't been used. The ledger constantly wowing everybody like stuff they're putting out.
So if we go to the daily time frame, and we just put that back probably a little bit longer than what it is. So we'll go for 2 years. Okay.
You just buy them more.
Okay, now.
I'm just trying to think about what I'm going to start buying Apple.
So observations on this chart are very, very important on the daily, because what we've got to see is it's posting a wave 4 on the daily. Now, let's have a closer look at this wave 4. Let's see where it is in terms of okay, let me just go to these because these are from a day trade the other day. Okay, that makes it better. So look at the wave 4. First tick in the box is it's pulled back on the daily in the red zone. That's good. Look at the 535 oscillator. Let's go big on the 535 oscillator. Look how deep that is compared to the wave 3. It's broke the rules. We're not interested in a long on the daily. This is why we've got to be very careful at the moment and look to trade on the weekly. Look at the stochastic. Got a false breakout on the bottom. So on the daily, we're looking like a potential further bearish move there, okay? Now, is it a massive sell-off right now? look, let me bear with me a minute. Look at the volume on the wave 4.
It's about average volume at the end.
Yeah, so we are slightly, whoops. So again, we're talking to ourselves in our office, remember?
But if you look at all the big spikes in volume, they're all red, but they're probably all.
There's a bearish bias there, okay? We broke back down into the main channel, but look at the volume. It started to pick up a little bit on average during this bearish move. That's bad.
Okay. All the spikes are red. Look at
yeah.
The spike.
Now, what we have to do, we have to go back to the last sort of correction, and we have to sort of look at that and compare the volume for that last sort of correction. Whoa. There is a potential fifth wave, but we've got the false bar at the bottom here. We broke the rules on the 535. Oh, for bearish? No, not on the daily. No. So what we've got, I just want to go a little bit further back in time. So I'm just going to take it back to maybe 5 years. 5 years. It needs to be a deeper pull. It needs to be the deep pullback. So we're looking, yeah, February, that wave 4 there, okay? Got to compare the volume. This is quite hard for me, guys. I'm used to working off a big 43-inch 4K monitor, not a laptop on a chart. So, yeah, but it's. I'm used to seeing big things. Okay. Now look at this previous pullback during the parabolic channel. Okay, this one here on my cursor. Look at the volume on average here. Compare it to this even longer pullback out of that parabolic channel and into this one. I would say the volume is roughly the same, if not slightly less. I don't know. Considering the amount of price that's changed from the high to that low, there's no real increase in volume. That's what I'm looking at. So during that parabolic move, there was a steep profit taking pullback. Look at the volume right now. It's no larger. So even though we've moved down further in price on some profit taking, there's no stampede, okay? There is some herd mentality there, but there's no real stampede because we're not double the, you know, we're about the same. So the volume's about the same from that pullback, okay? Is there a question there, Sophia? No? Okay. So again, it looks quite busy on here because I'm trying to pull in the volume of 535 and everything else. Let me just pull the volume down a bit more. Okay, so now I'm going to go down to the 60-minute time frame. Because once you've framed your chart, you can trade where you want to trade. Look at this, 60-minute time frame. Got potential fifth wave move on Monday. Okay, yeah, on the 60. And our target for the fifth wave move, okay, is just above our big support resistance zone. When we looked on the weekly, we said, actually, that's a bullish Harami, but we need a confirmation week. There is potential for that to go further down to this big support resistance zone. We've then worked down the time frames of all our channels and support resistance zone on. Hey, presto, there's a potential short there. There's some fresh air. We've got a potential entry for a short on Apple next week if it meets our criteria, okay? So yeah, we're looking probably at an entry around about 176.55 or something like that. So let's have a go. Let's measure it. Yeah. So let's remove this. I'm going to go. Oh, bear with me. Yeah. Now, don't get too excited. I need to just change. I need to take off the extended hours. Might change now. There we go. Okay, it's fine. So the first thing to do is measure the 535 oscillator. So this is a good example here. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to go from here to the highest point on the wave 3, which is there. Okay, now it's broken the rules. Okay, got to be very careful here. Again, this is what we're doing here. We're building a picture. This is the highest point during the wave 3. So this is we can't use this one. It's not during the wave 3. So we've broken the rules. Look at the stochastic. It is bearish bias, but we've pulled back down into the oversold zone already and not really moved price action wise. Okay. So on first look, we get a bit excited and we think, oh, I'm going to go short here, Apple. But we have to follow the discipline and the rules, and we have to look at the 535. We've got to understand how this wave 4 behave. So in one respect, in the pullback zones, it's behaved very well. We've got potentially a good risk to reward there. However, there's a couple of things fighting against us now. It's not up in the overbought zone. Really look at the volume on the 60 minute, to be honest. And the 535's not really in our favor. So, you know, even if I just put a risk to reward on there, it's probably a good risk to reward to go short at around about 176.81. Yeah, you got a 1 to 1.6 into the target zone there. Looks good. So this is, now I've built this picture up. I've gone from weekly to channels. I've gone daily on the support resistance zones. I've now gone to the 60 minute. There's a potential 5th wave trade there, but 535 doesn't work for me. The stochastic doesn't work for me. I am not going to swing that for 60 minute time frame. However, there's a potential that it's going to go on and hit that target. What other strategy can I use? And this is where the black box breakout indicator comes when you're talking about a different strategy. We know the potential is a 5th wave move there, but to swing this, we've got too many things working against us. It's not a high probability move. So we've got to look for a potential short. We've got to use a different type of strategy, because in some instances we're thinking that actually could go down and test that 162.50 in the middle of that zone. But we've got to have a better setup than this 5th wave move. So we'll go down to 30 minutes. Is there a potential trade there? Okay, let's go down to the 30 minutes. Now that doesn't help us at all. Okay, we've got a potential long there. Now then that feeds back into our theory on the 60 minute, where the 535 and the stochastic is not working with us. So this then puts us off going short on the 60, because now we're actually getting confirmation of that. So we've got a lot of conflicting stories there. So what does it say to you when you've got conflicting stories from the weekly to the daily? We stay out of Apple. Yeah, we stay out of Apple. So we then go back to our weekly. Let's see if we get a confirmation of that bullish army next week. Let's see how next week closes, then we can make a decision. Okay? So it's just because we framed the trend channel, the support resistance zones, we put everything else in, we were able to make a decision. So we've got to look for reasons not to get in a trade. So if there's no reason, we'll get in a trade. But we found too many things that are working against us, and we won't be going long on a weekly until we move away from that support level. On the daily, the pullback is too deep on the wave 4. We're breaking some rules. Even on the 60 minute, it looks good for a short, but we were broken the rules on the 535. So we've actually found a lot of reasons not to actually trade Apple next week. Okay, but it'll be interesting to see how next week closes and if there's any trading opportunities. But that stays on your chart. So you've said to yourself right now on a Sunday night, I've done my analysis. I'm not going to trade Apple this week, but I know where it is. I'll see how this week ends, and I'll look for potential trading opportunities next week. I'll just get my phone because it's got my watch list on that I've done the charts for. Okay. Netflix is the next one. So let's go to the weekly. Go to Netflix. Now look at that. Okay, so let's go back 10 years. Would you say this latest channel that moved up was parabolic or what? That was 60-degree move, crazy move. I made some good money during that move. Okay, but in reality, this channel here is your slow boat to China. That's your growth channel, okay? Then you've got a secondary channel in here, which is your 45-degree channel, which is normal. And then you've got your 60-degree channel, which was massive, okay? So again, so we've framed this now. I've gone to my daily and I've put my linear support and resistance zones on there. So on a weekly, you know, potentially now we've had some correction. We've come back down into that secondary, that middle channel, which is our 45-degree channel. Is it going to find support there? I had a good week last week, to be honest. I didn't do too bad. On a weekly sort of respect, the volume was probably slightly higher. Let's have a look. Okay, so okay, we had an accumulation week, if you like. So we had people accumulating that stock. We ended up pretty close. We closed almost at the top end of that channel. Is there a trade there on the weekly? Not yet. But it's interesting to see now we've framed that. We've got that non-linear support resistance zone with that secondary channel. We've got just underneath that, just here, you can see this support and resistance zone as well. So this is pretty good. We can actually use this now. If it does start to move away there, we go back to smaller time frames and see what it, but to be honest, that 60-degree move, that was a big move in Netflix. What we probably see in theory now is more of a 45-degree move. I don't think there's going to be a catalyst for the next year or so with Netflix to actually give us that similar sort of growth spurt. But for me, you know, my positions are all lower than that. So I'm looking for another entry right now. But I'm away from the highs, which is good. But I need another entry. So I've got to look at this other support resistance zone up here, in this rectangle here that I've drawn. And I've got to make sure that I'm actually above there, because you look at this fifth wave move down here, it's only short term, probably that looks better on the daily, but that hit good support there and bounced off. So I need to make sure now that's not going to be a resistance zone for me. So if I'm going to get another position in Netflix, I need to make sure I'm above there. Let's go down to the daily. Okay, so daily picture. Go back a little bit longer. I just want to look at the volume again and look at the average daily volume. Go back 3 years will do. Okay. Look at the volume right on the left. We're at the same sort of average daily volume now, okay? Same sort of average daily volume is on the left. So what happened there? We actually pulled back into the lower trend channel. Now we're coming back up again. So let's zoom in a little bit now and see where we are on the daily. So critical phase right now. We've had an ABC correction, okay? Now, roughly, that's the right measurements, but we need to do some more work on the indicator suite to make that a little bit more purer. But you can see the ABC correction after that previous bullish trend as we broke out of that parabolic channel there. We had a little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We hit support, our support resistance zone, and then we went corrective. We had the end of the C wave. It came back down below the previous A wave, hit the same support level again, bounced, formed the wave 2, and broke through. So now on the daily, we're on a wave 4 pullback. We could be going further down. So let's just remove that drawing a second. Right, so on the 535, we haven't pulled back enough yet. I'm going to put the measurement in there. Just, again, it's just something, even if you can see it by eye, once you've done the drawing, it's there. We're going to highest point on wave 3. So as you can see at the moment, it looks like maybe some more bullish action is needed for it to go short again. So on the 535, you will zoom in a little bit. We've got to come between 90 and 140. The stochastic's not in the overbought zone yet. So there's some more bullish momentum there on the daily time frame. So there's no real trade short at the moment. And in potentially now, if we break this pivot point here, and especially this wave 1, that whole bearish move has failed. Remember the rules. The wave 4 cannot pull back beyond the extreme of wave 1. So if that wave 4 continues through this support resistance zone into next week, and we break that wave 1 pivot, that bearish move is over. Okay? It's broken that main basic rule. So we're looking for longs, or probably going corrective again. So, you know, you look at this and you think, naturally, Netflix is not on my list for next week. Okay? Remember, the whole part of trading and doing your analysis is to find reasons not to get to trade. So you've got the stocks that you watch and you're going through them. You've put all your trend channels in. You've put all your linear support and resistance level in. And every Sunday, I just look at my charts and I look what's going to be the top of my list for the next week. Yeah.
Oh, do you ever use daily trend channels?
Yes. Yeah. If it goes parabolic on a daily, I will put something on there. If I can see a trend on the daily, I will add that as well. Yeah, absolutely. Next, Amazon. Okay, so let's pull that down. Again, I'm not used to using the Mac. I'm certainly not used to using the pad. There we go. Did it. Weekly. Amazon. Okay, look at that. That's looking pretty good. I'm liking Amazon. This is the weekly, so I'm just going to go a little bit further out on the weekly. So you only need to buy 1 or 2 shares. You got to be in it to win it. So again, you've got 2 major trend channels there. And again, you extend the original one out because it could come back and test that as support. So you've got to really, really look at that. So on the weekly, we've gone from 30 to 45 degree type of move. And now on the weekly, we've pulled back into the first green zone, wave 4 on the weekly. Looking pretty good there. Okay. So this week, we've had quite a bullish week. We've had an increased volume. So this week is a what accumulation week. Yeah. So we've had really good price action. We've closed near the high. We've had increased volume. The only thing that's letting us down at the moment, it didn't cross in the oversold zone. Okay. So that's a red flag at the moment for a potential long on Amazon on the weekly time frame. So I won't even measure the 535, but it looks good to me. But because the stochastic's not where it needs to be, you know, we've got false breakout at the top. You know, on the longer term, we are bullish. It's accumulation week, yeah. It's good, but we need follow on next week. But because the stochastic didn't cross in the oversold zone, our 5th wave move could be muted. And when we look at where the target zone is, and that we extend that right, that's going to be at the top end of that secondary channel. But the risk reward going long through the 6-4 moving average, you're not going to have enough room. So that's when we go down to daily to see what's happening there. So let's go back 3 years. There we go. Look at that. So look at the 535 though. See how extreme that 535 oscillator is on the daily on Amazon. Okay, so we've got a wave 4 pullback, but we can see there's a false breakout bar on the stochastic at the bottom. We can see this has been quite a longer term pullback, but the main thing for me is the strength of that oscillator on the wave 3. Look at the strength on this pullback. So there's, you know, it's broken the rules. There's no trade on Amazon for me at the moment, no trade at all. Yes, it had a great week last week, which is good, but it doesn't meet our criteria for a 5th wave move. So I have to go down on a lower time frame to see if there's anything there for me. Remembering now we broke out of this 45-degree channel, it may act as resistance now to get back in. So all these things are feeding against us at the moment to look for Amazon. But I chose some of these major stocks because we've got good momentum. But again, when we do another live session for this course at the end of January, all of this drawings will still be on and we can see how it's reacted at these points. And it'll be pretty freaky, and I can assure you, okay? So let's just go down to the 60, have a quick look. Let's go out a few more days there, I think. Let's go 90 days. Okay, so this is where we are at the moment. As you can see, we've had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the 60-minute. Now look at that wave 4 on the 60-minute, comes back and tips the bottom end of that 45-degree channel as resistance. That's a good sign. That's a good signal. Yeah, you know, it's 535. Your stochastic's got to line up, but just look at how that really reacts there. But on the 60-minute now, we can see we're on a wave 3. We've got a false breakout at the top. If we do pull back against that on the intraday, on the 60-minute time frame next week, and all the stars align, so we get a pullback against the false breakout, crosses over in the oversold zone. We get the 535 within the parameters. We get the wave 4 hit there. We could have a potential 5th wave intraday next week on Amazon. So again, this one now says to me, this is the first one on my list for next week to look at, okay? Potentially, and I'll just note in my head, I'm only interested on the 60-minute time frame or lower, depending on how it goes. So, you know, that's the process I'm going through. Frame it, support resistance zones, and then I work down from the weekly, the daily, the 60-minute. And that's just a process you need to go through all the time. So next is, so we're going to do 2 more, and then I'm going to take questions, okay? What did I say it was? Visa, my favorite. So we'll go back 15 years on this one. Yeah, again, but we're looking on long term. You've got to really think where it is on the weekly channel, and there's no entries at the moment. So you're starting with your long-term view and working down, really. So we'll go back 15 years, I think, on the Visa. Okay, so this is the longer-term view. Look at this channel here, 45-degree channel there, and it was in there for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years or more, okay? And then over the last couple of years, we've broke out on a 60-degree channel, which is the pink one, okay? So this is really strong growth stock. I think the only problem with this is, I mean, I hold this physically, but the only issue with this is these are really tight channels, and you've got to go down the time frames to look for those entries, because it's a longer term hold, yes, but you've got to find those entries, and it's difficult. So they're all shallow pullbacks. And Visa was the example I gave this morning on those chart, or earlier on those chart patterns. When we drew the channel, we went down to the 60, we saw the double bottom, and we traded it going up, because they're the only sort of entries you can get in these really strong growth stocks. So let's go now to the daily. Go back 2 years. Okay. So this is where we are on the daily right now. We're not that far away from the all-time highs, really, considering the correction that we've had in the markets and considering how far this has grown. This has not really had big correction. It's a very strong stock. And it's something you really should consider for your longer term holdings. But buy on the pullbacks, without a doubt. But it is a really strong growth stock. You look at Apple's correction and Netflix's correction and Amazon's correction that we've just seen, how steep price action those were. But look at this. We've got a cluster. It's just not going down. Why? Because more people are spending money on their credit cards and these are making more money. Visa's a license to print money. So it's one of those stocks that you've got to look carefully on. And to be honest, it's one of those ones where you should have your channels, you should have your support resistance zones on there, and you should be looking intraday, you know, or adding it to your portfolio, because we're back in that channel now. Right, yeah. Right, to emerging markets, yeah, Visa, yeah. So again, look, we've got a double bottom here on the daily. So what we talked about before, we would look to go long above that wave 2 pivot, okay? Double bottom on the daily at our major support and resistance zone as well. You don't get better than that, really, okay? So if it can push through that high of that wave 2 pivot, have in mind, though, that center line of that channel is very strong. So have in mind, so then you'd think, well, I might go down to the 60 minutes, that double bottom will still be there, because then I might get a better entry, a tighter entry and stop. Okay, I say, so we've missed the 5th wave move in the last couple of days. If we put that, I bet that looks really good on the 30. Yeah, look at that. Or even a 15 minutes. Let's go. Is that going too far? No, look at that. There you go. This is the multiple time frame strategy in the elite trading course at its core. You've started off at the weekly, you've drawn your channels, you've put your support resistance zones in, you've then gone down to the daily, still looking strong, not really going down. I'm only looking for longs in Visa, I'm not looking for shorts. You've gone down. I mean, to be honest, Visa, I would have the weekly, the daily, the 60 minute, the 30, the 15, and the 5, all on one monitor, all on my big 43K. Because this, on yesterday, that was a 5th wave move. 535's good, stochastic's good. You've got support at the channel, at the bottom end of the channel, from the weekly time frame, and this is a 15-minute time frame. It's pulled back on a wave 4, all the boxes in it, you know, and then you look at the risk to reward. Let's draw the risk to reward on there. So your stop is just below the wave 4. Okay, got a double bottom there as well. Look, it really held support at that channel level. Your entries above this pivot. You've got a risk to reward of 1 to 1.6, the top end of your target zone. That was the trade on Friday, and I'm hoping that somebody in the Trade the Fifth network traded that 5th wave move, because that was perfect. We built, you know, I want people to understand that these channels, support and resistance zones, looking at the price action, how the wave 4 reacts, it's really key to setting the picture for that stock. And it just goes, I mean, we do this in more depth in the elite training course, but that was the trade. That was a beautiful trade on Friday. Perfect, absolutely perfect. Right, one more. J&J. Go to the weekly. Let's go back. Let's go back 10 years on J&J. No, I know somebody that just trades J&J. That's his whole trading career, J&J. and it's very profitable.
Forex is heavily invested in Visa.
Yeah.
She's doing very well.
So long-term bullish channel on Johnson Johnson on the weekly, perfect. You know, it's a 30-degree angle, it's a slow boat to China, but it's a good solid stock, yeah, longer term. But then we look at it recently. We've had a bit of a fifth wave move there. It's not quite hit target yet, okay? But look at that support level just there. And at the bottom end of the channel, this is freaky stuff, but it's not. Why? Because institutional traders are drawing these channels and putting these support resistance zones on. And they are making decisions at this point. At this point, we had convergence of the support resistance zone, the linear one where the wave 4 is, and the channel, okay? That's a big decision point. That's a signal that that's a really good support level and we're going to go long. Let's have a look at it on a daily. Oh, no, that's not, no. 2 years daily. Okay. Now, for me, personally, I like to trade off a daily time frame, okay? So the wave 4 pullback on the daily was a pretty good trade. We'd already bounced off the lower bound of the channel here. You see, on the weekly, we said the convergence of the support resistance zone and the channel, and then we moved up. We moved up on the daily to the center line of the weekly channel, formed the wave 3, and then pulled back from it, okay? We pulled back into our support resistance zone, and then it's gone on and hit the 5th wave target, okay? Where did it hit the 5th wave target? At one of our support resistance zones that we've already drawn on, okay? I will repeat it again. This is not freaky. Institutional traders draw the channels and support resistance zones, okay? And this will help guide you when you frame your chart with these. It will help guide you to make those decisions. If there's enough fresh air and everything sets up, you're going to go in. So it's good trade. Let's see how it reacts on the intraday on the 60-minute. Let's go back a little further. Oops. I want to go back 90 days. Okay. Oh, again, look at this. You know, bounced off the center line of the channel on the 60-minute and hit the 5th wave target at the support resistance zone. So very, very powerful. It's a good stock, J&J. And I've tried to choose some really sort of good stocks that you really should, you know, if anything, you go away from this now, you just set these stocks up, you put the channels on, the support and resistance zones, and you track these. And if you get into that routine, you'll start to build these out. And if you're on Think or Swim, for example, once you've drawn them on there, they're on there. Even if you go on to another, I'm on Joseph's computer right now, but I've logged into my Think or Swim account that I put these drawings on in Spain, and all my drawings have come up. I use on my trading, I've got 2 big trading computers, and on each computer, I use 3 instances of Think or Swim on each computer, okay? So I will open another instance from another instance. So you're not dragging your memory down. But if I draw something on J&J on one computer on one chart, if I've got J&J open on the other computer, the drawing appears immediately. And that's good. And it stays there until you delete it. So even if you do some work on a stock right now and there's nothing going on with it, 6 weeks later, you go back, all those support and resistance levels are there, all those channels are there, and that framing, that work that you've done, it's there. All you may have to do is extend those support and resistance zones to the right a little bit, but it's already there. And that's really what you need to do. And over the next year, every stock that you look at, you start off at the weekly, put your trend channel in, you go to daily, put your support and resistance zones in. So over the next year, out of the 250 stocks that you look at, they'll all be framed. So you'll be able to make decisions a lot easier.
When you log into Think or Swim, we'll try and see real time.
No, I don't. No, I don't. But I don't trade from it. I use it as a charting platform. Okay. I never trade from my charts. I don't even execute a trade from the same computer that my charts are on. It's an institutional trade. It's a money manager thing. Yeah. You don't want to press the wrong button on a chart and buy something. So I have a computer just with trade tickets on. So, for example, I do my pre-market prep. I will know the sort of stocks that are on my watch list or what I want to trade, and I've got all open order tickets ready to go. Okay, so if it comes up, I know in my mind the sort of risk I want to take, the sort of CFDs I want to go with, it's long or short, and literally bang, price, bang, 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 press go. Okay, so I have to go through a process to put the trade on. If you are a think or swing user and you're trading off your charts and you press the wrong button while you're moving your chart around and you press buy instead of sell, and I've heard it in my trade room. You can. When you trade off your chart, like I do. Oh, right. It comes up. Yeah. Right. My cousin does it all the time. Yeah. I mean, he's like a horrible trader, but he makes a mistake to make money.
It's true.
One day he called me, he's like, oh my God, he had quit trading. And he had gone to a doctor's appointment or something. He called me on the way. He said, oh my God, I got killed.
So now we're going to open the floor. So I've gone through some examples that I've put together. So does anybody want me to look at a particular stock? RT, oh, very interesting, yeah.
Especially right now because the world breaks out somewhere else.
FTN, you know.
Right down, it's got to go through the roof.
I'm looking at this.
It's going down right now. Well, no, it's up there.
No, we've got a good. Yeah, yeah. So
we're holding lucky buttons
right now. I'm hold RTN and ONT at the moment. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close out the volume a second. I need a bigger chart because I'm going to draw the channel on and everything. Okay.
So what happened when the Senate came out 2 weeks ago with the bill against Saudi Arabia to stop selling arms to Saudi Arabia? All of these stocks got smashed with that bill. But it's never going to make it through, so they're going to bounce back.
Drawing.
That was a good buying opportunity to buy defense stocks.
I tell you what, you know, there's so many things that are right on edge right now with Iran, with whatever.
But a war with Iran is going to be World War III. That's what people don't realize is I've heard from a lot of Americans is that, this is to attack Iran. Iran is 3 times the size of Iraq. 3 times. A much bigger country, much more powerful country. Of course, not to the extent of the United States, but it's not a joke. You don't just attack.
Okay, let's get this chart. Let's get the channel on there. So again, it's the initial start point for a chart is the most difficult point. So we've got to look in our mind's eye for a trend line to start that channel. I'm using the channel drawing tool, but sometimes you don't get it right first time. The thing is, I'm looking here, and the top end as a potential channel. So I'm just going to go to this pivot point here, for example. I'm going to click, he says. There we go. I'm going to put that in just for now, okay? And then I'm going to come down. I'm going to look for the lower end, and I'm also looking at the center line, okay? Okay.
You got to go down a little more.
Right, I'm just gonna pull it down a little bit first. Okay, so we are there.
So it's broken out of the channel to the downside.
That's correct.
It's actually scary now.
Yeah, so now this is our weekly channel. Let's go through it. Obviously, you've got to zoom in then. So we've got 1 touch, 2 touch, 3, 4, 5 touch. That's a good trend line. Yeah, the top end's a good trend line. It's a good starting point.
Back into the channel, right?
If I've got a signal.
Yeah.
We've got a signal. So again, I've gone lower on the lower bound because I wanted this touch on the center, and I wanted all this confluence around the center line here to touch. That's really, really important. And then we just ticked it there as well. So again, so you'll see now there's hardly any touch. There's no touches on the bottom of that channel. It just stayed within the channel, but still rode that same angle, that 45-degree angle. But it's the center line and that main starting trend that's important. Right now then, so now that's the weekly. Let's go to the daily and put our support and resistance zones in. We need to go back longer than that.
So was that bearish that we were just looking at?
Well, it's a wave forward, but it's gone too deep. So you see on the daily, we're corrected.
Broke out of the long-term channel.
Yeah,
To the downside.
yeah,
Not good.
that's not good. So now we've got to put our support and resistance zone in. This is from something else I did, but it's quite a good zone, but it just needs to be a little bit narrower, really. And we need to put that high in there.
Can you notice that it went down, it came back to the zone, and actually it went back down? That's actually even the worst thing that just happened.
Yeah.
He tried to get back into the zone,
And it
dropped
failed.
down line D,
Act as resistance.
went back up,
Yeah.
and then just bounced right up, but it came down again. So if he takes out D on the way down, that's even the worst. That's the worst case scenario.
Okay, so we've got a big support and resistance zone in there. Now we're outside of the channel. So we've got to look a bit lower for some more linear support and
I
resistance.
would say the bottom of line D, right? That would be support.
But we've got to see if there's anything backing that up here to the left. Got to look left. So for me, support and resistance is a little lower.
What is that? 18-month chart?
This is a 5-year chart on the daily.
Oh, wow. You want to go back down far?
Yeah, because I've got support here, and I've got the resistance in the zone there. So I'm going to go for that low there, and I'm going to take in those highs just there, and I'm going to bring it all the way over to the right. Okay.
It's done very well.
Yeah. So now, around about $160, you can see there's a big decision point from these decision points here. There's big resistance here. Look, big resistance, stayed in there for ages, and then pushed up, dipped down, and bounced off. Okay. And then we've got this other one. These are the ones that are going to be really affecting this stock right now. We've got some above as well, which are pretty key as well. Let's put that in. So we're starting to frame our stock now. So we've got resistance here. We've got some real consolidation in the zone there. We've got resistance, we've got support. So for me, I don't want to overcrowd the chart. That's a good looking chart to me. I've got a good, strong movement up. It's broke out of the channel, okay? But now I want to see if the 160 holds. That's key for me. If it doesn't, we're going to be looking for a short. I already went short.
I don't think it's started pretty strongly.
Well, I went short. I've got longer term holdings, and within a circle, we went short RTN LNT on a 5th wave move on the 60-minute last week, and we've got some good money.
Oh, you invested with?
Yeah, I'm invested in it, but on another account, I shorted it as insurance.
So
Yeah.
short term,
Yeah.
short, but long term,
Long. Yeah.
it's long.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for a really nice entry, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, let me know, Paul. I want to buy some.
I'm just looking for a good entry, low, because it's below some of my original entries. Yeah.
I was going to tell you that. Why don't you play the options on it?
Yeah.
Let's really have more reward.
Yeah, I know. I'm
Yeah.
trying, but every time I put in an order, it's not accepted because it's dropping too fast. And I'm holding out for what I want.
So what I did was I didn't panic because I'm holding this longer term and it came out of that longer term growth channel. I didn't panic on the 60-minute because one of my inner circle, his responsibility is to call out multiple time frame trades because we work as a team. So we've got 2 that do multiple time frame trades. RTN is in our blend portfolio. So we've got ETFs and stocks.
Do you guys have a selected group?
Yeah.
You don't have a computer system, or it keeps you like a
I give all the alerts. We use a Google group. They get everything, and they spend all day with me.
You guys focus on a certain group of stocks?
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
So if you had a system, maybe that could give you some of the stuff that's outside the box.
Oh no, we do look to scan for others, but again, in the inner circle, we've got ETFs and stocks in the blend. Okay, one person responsibility is the ETFs, just to keep track on them fundamentally. No, so technically, one guy is fundamentally. Then we've got one guy for stocks, and then one guy for multiple time frames on both stocks and ETFs. So their job for the whole next year is that specific strategy to do with the blend. And then another person is to do futures. So we all work as a team together. So this came up, and LNT is very, very similar in that we got this wave 4 pullback after it broke out the main channel. Now look where the wave 4 hit. Bang on the support resistance zone and tipped the bottom end of that previous channel. That's a signal. If it starts to go down, we're going to short as insurance against our longer term trades. We're already out this. We made good money. We didn't want to hit the target. We don't carry these over the weekend. So we moved down. I think we made 1.5% profit on the account balance on this, another 1.2 on LNT. But that's insurance. So when we get good support and it comes back into that channel, we can use that money to buy some more stocks.
So is LNT pretty much?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm doing great on it because it's
yeah. XAR is the ETF. That's a good ETF as well.
Question for you. Yeah. Do you guys do commodities too, or do you stay away from commodities? Right now with the price action and with the Federal Reserve trying to back off.
We track oil.
Yeah, the oil I think is starting to bottom out.
I don't
think it's going to go much below 50.
Yeah.
And then did you guys get into the pot stocks? Marijuana stocks?
No.
And gold, I think it's going to historically.
I did a recent TV show and I talked about gold, didn't I? Yeah. The guys were watching me live. I went to London and did a TV show. And yeah, gold, we've got it. Although it's range bound over the last 2 years, it's got a bullish bias. So it looks like it will break out to the upside.
I think so too, yeah.
But it will take a bigger catalyst like a sell-off.
The Fed just this week just gave us the biggest bump you could give it, like stocks that they're
slowing down the interest rates. Yeah.
I'm not a gold bug by any means.
So what's the verdict on marijuana?
They're going down again.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about the cryptocurrencies?
I don't touch it. I don't touch cryptos. I like 10 or 15 years of data. I like to see trends. I like to measure trends. I like to see the momentum. If I want to go cryptocurrency, I may as well take 10 grand, go to Las Vegas and lose it, you know? Okay, so let's have another stock. Let's have a look. Not LNT, because it's pretty similar. Where are we? Let's go weekly. Anything from the live streaming, Sophia? Anybody want me to look at a stock there? DGAZ. Is that what somebody said? Somebody just said DGAZ. Right. That's not trending. That's no good.
Look at that.
There's no trend there. Anybody else from the streaming want me to look at a stock? GC, yeah.
I'm actually thinking about buying some gold now.
Can you buy time from
I'll buy a diamond ring. I mean, gold ring.
What observations can you tell me on the weekly chart about the volume? Is the price going up?
No.
That's a very bad signal.
I look at it, actually right now it's on this resistance line.
Yeah. This gold futures, yeah.
You're looking at
That's correct. It's squeezing. So, but we're in a very tight range. So at this moment in time, it will take a news catalyst to make it break out, but we cannot predict which way it will break
It's
out.
not in favor right now. People
Yeah.
don't even look at it.
Yeah.
Wall Street's not like.
What it will, again, I think one of the catalysts for gold, if we discuss this, is as technology advances and there may be a greater need for gold in certain chips or certain technology or certain battery technology or something we don't even see, we dream of at the moment, because there's only a finite amount of gold, it's going to shoot up. Yeah. Until somebody actually finds the next use for gold, except for the piles and tons of it in the Bank of England, there's going to be no real need for that price to shoot up, because gold mining companies now, and I'm in some junior gold miners, they're not pulling as much gold out of the ground now. And there's a hell of a lot in storage. You know why they're storing it? Because this technology needs it in 10 years' time, and they bought it at $1,200 and they can sell it at $2,500. You know, boom, they'll make a load of money.
It not really hasn't been as much. It's gotten eaten up a lot more. Silver is just completely.
So yeah, gold at the moment for me is not a buy, especially because the volume's increasing, but the price action hasn't. There is a bullish bias there, but we've got a big ceiling to get through. And again, when we talk about support and resistance zones, you've got to look at, on the weekly, you've got to look at this sort of level here. And it's quite a big zone, but you know what? It needs to break through 1400.
Do you use RSI?
No.
It works really well for me.
So there.
We use
Stochastic. Yeah, 1433. Stochastic we use. XHB. Let's have a look at.
There's going to start bouncing when rates are dropping. Yeah, when rates are dropping, it's going to start going up.
Okay, so let's go.
No, I want to buy some. But that's not a price thing. No, the Fed is scared of Trump and they're buying up bonds like crazy again. And they're starting to pull back on their QE tightening. They said they're going to adjust it. They're not going to tighten anymore. Anywhere they could do deficit.
Okay, so this is the weekly. Now, this is not an exact science, remember. So I've got one touch at the wave one. I've got a touch here, and a touch at the top. You'll see it just popped out here. That's fine. It's a line of best fit. We have got 4 or 5 tips and it's bounced off, so that's a good trend line. Center line, wave 4 on the weekly, hit it. We've got big resistance here as well, big resistance there, and then it's come back down. We've got good support. We've got two touches, maybe 3 on the bottom line. Really good trend channel there. We've broken out of it. Okay, so
it's time to go long, do you think?
No, not yet. We've got to now go to the daily. In fact, we'll go weekly first, and we'll put our big support resistance zone in there. So XHB. Okay. So there, before I've gone down to the daily to put support and resistance zones in, on the weekly, I could see this really strong one with this resistance here, support, and confluence with the channel. So this is a really strong price. This is a really strong decision point. So this is our make or break, if you like. If we push below there, this is really going to suffer. Okay. So we don't want to be going long yet until we confirm or get back into that main channel. So let's go down to the daily now and look at some more medium term support resistance zones. Whoops. So let's go 4 years. That'll do with this one. Okay, so we have got one right now. Okay, let me just
Running the line right now. Just judging by interest rates, I think there's going to be a bump up in housing. Because rates just went from 3.27 to less than 3% on a 10-year arm. Yeah, on Friday this dropped below 3%. I think that's very bullish.
Okay, so with this support resistance zone here, we've got a touch all in this cluster. We've got this one on this big rejection. We've got one touch there. We've got a big support zone there, and we've just had a recent touch on it as well. So this is a good support level as well. So I've moved from the weekly down to the daily. I've got two strong support and resistance zones linear. We've broken out of the channel. So we're not interested in this just yet, but if these can hold and we can move back into the channel, there could be a potential there. Now, we then zoom in on this daily. We're on a wave 4 pullback. Look where our 5th wave target is. Right at that support resistance zone. Are you going to go long right now?
No.
The bias is bearish. We've had a good wave 4 pullback. There's no bearish trade because of this pivot point here. We'd have to enter below there. So our risk to reward will be less than 1 to 1.6. So we will not go short on XHB.
You've had a 10% jump on the bottom for a short period of time.
Yeah, good. But we're looking for a wave 4 failure back into here. Okay. So we are looking really, and again, I will draw this in because this is an important level. If we can break this wave 1 pivot here, that whole bearish move will fail. Just above $40. So if we can close above $40, the bearish move outside the channel would have failed. Potentially now, we're either in a bullish correction or a start of a new bullish trend. So we've got time for XHB. But now we've drawn this, it's on our chart, we've put the channel in, put the support and resistance zones in, and now we've identified that wave 1 pivot. If we close above $40, we've got good volume. We could say there's a good opportunity for a long there. Okay, so we've done all of that work. And that work stays on your chart. So yes, looking at it, we've got a potential 5th wave move. But let's just go back to our first session here, and we talk about the risk to reward. Let's just measure that. Because when we look at it on the other points, the 535 looks good to me. I'll measure it.
What's that false breakout on the bottom?
That's good. That denotes a bearish trend if you're going to go short.
So it's actually above the line. It's time to short it?
No, because I'll do the risk to reward in a minute. So we have the 535 is good. We've got a false breakout in the bottom denoting a bearish trend. We did pull crossover in the overbought zone, but then we pulled back up again. Okay, so there could be a bullish bias here, and this was this pivot point. So now if we were considering going short, and remember when we talked about entry strategies, we've got to look for a stop loss just above the wave 4. We would then have an entry below the 6-4 moving average low, but we've got to consider this pivot point here. So that's our entry. Our risk reward is 1 to 1. That's no good. That's no good. So we've worked everything out. Looks pretty good. But remember that last check in the box is the risk to reward. That's a low probability trade because of the risk to reward. Now, because of that higher crossover on the stochastic as well, you could see now more bullish momentum on a false breakout bar forming on the top. Okay, so now when we put that $40 target in, if it breaks up above that and closes above there, that's when, if you've got positions or you want to add to positions at XHB, that's where you would do it because that bearish move is over. So it's not just about trading the 5th, it's recognizing when things fail, especially if you're going longer term in ETFs as well. So that's really, really key to that. So let's do one more. Yeah. AMD. Ooh.
That was going on for a while. Yeah.
Based on your recommendation, money and it's too low. Now,
You held it too long. Oh no. You still have it. Yeah. Yeah. I'll do this one and then let me know, yeah? Right, so now with AMD, we can see a really sort of a range-bound period there. We can see a big move up, and then it went range-bound again. That's not a trend. So have we really got a long-term channel? No, is the answer. So it's not a long-term growth stock. Not necessarily. Let's have a closer look.
This thing was $3 like 2 years ago.
Well, no, yeah, you need a channel, but there's no channel here because we go from flat, we have a move, we go flat, we have a parabolic move, and then it comes back just as hard. They're all getting killed at the moment. Yeah.
The other thing is crypto. Yeah, they want to get away from Intel. All the crypto rates, man.
Well, AMD is cheap.
No, those are huge. That's what it is. Yeah.
So this was along quite a while ago, and it made money, but now we can see, yeah, it's pulled back. So I'm just going to, before I go off the weekly, I'm just going to draw this big zone in here because this is key. This range period on the weekly was very long, and the wave 4 is now just tipped off it, very close to it. Okay, so I wouldn't get overly, you know, if it comes back and closes below $15, depending on where your loss is at the moment, that would be the time to get out. Now, for me at this moment in time, I'll obviously look on another time frame. It's found support at the top end of that previous range. Okay, so it may have found its bottom. So we, you know, when we look at the candlestick pattern on the weekly, on the wave 4, whoa,
So maybe I should hold it for now.
we've got a bullisher army. Okay, on the wave 4 on the weekly. Okay.
So
yeah,
that's a good sign.
That's a good sign, but it wasn't followed through. But what it didn't do is it tested those lows, but not breached them. So if we have a look on the daily time frame now,
I bought a small amount. I mean, I was just testing the waters. But I had
You've been taking a lot?
Yeah.
I was just, this is not going to get destroyed. I was just caught.
Yeah, maybe I'll just leave it alone.
Bitcoin mining for AI.
No, the management's doing a good job.
okay, so let's take this off now.
Well, I know, but even now, don't think that.
You know, drawing.
But the money is no longer in computer chips, smaller specialized chips. Yeah.
Okay, so on the daily, the wave 4 actually came below the red zone, okay? So, but you can see how it's holding right now, but we haven't closed that gap yet. So you're talking around about $23 to close that gap. It doesn't seem to want to go down. That big support and resistance zone seems very strong to me. And as I said before, if you're holding a small amount and you've got a longer term view on it, if it goes and closes below $15 into that zone, get out, take your loss, turn your back and walk away. But if you hold it right now and it closes that gap and we get a little bit of a surge, it could go and test $40. And then you'd be the hero, wouldn't you? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it looks pretty strong at the moment, despite the big correction in the market. It's not sold off like Apple. Okay, what was the other one? Sorry. NOC. Let's go. Okay.
But it might be a good buy.
Yeah, so let's put a channel on it. Let's put a channel on it.
Wow.
Okay.
You made a lot. How long have you owned it?
You must be rolling in the dough.
Looking better, run from 50 to 350.
Okay, so that's a really strong growth channel there on the weekly.
Very strong. 700%.
Yeah, that's almost, no, it's not quite 60 degrees, but it's a good strong growth channel, but it's broke out of that channel. So we now need to look for linear support resistance zones. And I think we've got one right there on the weekly. So let's put that in first.
Got another one, $200. If it goes below 200, I would get out. That's going to be ugly. Just goes straight down.
Oh, something just went in my earphone then. Has my battery run out? I'm not sure. Can people still hear me? Yeah, hello. Yeah. Okay, so we've got weekly support resistance zone in there. The wave four's just tested that one now, pretty encouraging. But we wouldn't trade it off the weekly purely because the 535 oscillators pulled back too deep. Yeah. So we're breaking our rules. But let's have a look at it on the daily. You know, never say never. Again, if it's a stock that you're trading or you're owning, you need to do this work. You know, at the end of the day, you need to do this work. I mean, look, you know, we've got a fifth wave target in and around or just below that big support level, in the between our two support levels. Okay, yeah. So, you know, there is an opportunity. It could form a double bottom with that low on the daily in that support zone around 250. But I wouldn't look for a trend reversal until it went above the wave four pivot. So 290, if it closes above 290, and then what you would do on the daily is look at the wave one pivot actually on the weekly channel. That's pretty cool there. So again, the trend is truly failed when it goes through that wave one because it breaks the rules that we talked about. Okay, so that $300 level, that's the ultimate failure of this bearish move outside of that channel. But then you've got resistance getting back into the channel.
Yeah, but if you break 250, it's going to get real ugly.
It is, yeah.
I mean, that's the goal. What was that con right there? The balance right there, that was one of the ones you showed us. You bounce right up to 250, the first bounce, you see?
Oh, this here?
Yeah, that's what is that? Is that a shooting star?
No, it's not a piercing line. It's a piercing line.
Yeah, those are nice bars.
Yeah.
All the way
Look
up.
at that all the way up there. Yeah.
That breaks 250, it's going to get really hard.
Yeah.
I don't think you will though. Look, it's almost overbought.
I wouldn't go by that. This is why we have we wouldn't go, because we have those false breakouts, it can stay in the oversold zone for a long time. And once you start getting those yellow dots form in the oversold zone, that's bearish bias. You know, but if you're long-term holding with that, you've got to think, if that does come down and find support, there's a great opportunity to buy at a lower price, lower your average holding price, and that's a double-edged strategy. So longer term, I'm going to stay in, I get a lower price, I bring my average holding down, I'm just going to wait 5 years, fire and forget. It goes above it, I make more money. Or portfolios suffering right now. I brought my average holding price down quite a bit. Once it gets there, I can get out break even. So there's a double-edged sword with that sort of strategy, but that's the way it goes. So what I'm going to do is going to finish the recording now. So I think we've had a great day. There's no more questions from the streaming. Okay, so we'll get these. I'll just stop the recording now. Yeah, we'll look at one more then. Go on. Just one more. Oh, the cues.
That's a tough one because that's just the whole index, right?
Oh, I've worked on this before. So yeah, with the cues, we're at a big support resistance zone right now. Okay. Oh no, that's NOC. Why does that not do the cues? Oh, there we go. Right, let's go longer. Let's go 10 years. Whoa, we've got some further downward movement there, haven't we? Into our pullback zones.
In the weekly,
I'm going to draw the channel now, yeah.
pull back more, it's going to be a good long opportunity.
Yeah, but it all comes down to what happens with China too. I think they come in a group.
Say again.
Rally. When you get to the 8th,
Just for one stock, but I don't do the whole channel and everything. No, I haven't got time. Then I'll be giving too much away. So that's
okay, that's a great sign of what's going to happen. Well, that's right, something needs to short them up.
right.
If they're throwing money at it, then it's still going to be more upside, especially with the Nasdaq. You got to ask these guys. If you see money flowing in, Nasdaq's going to keep going.
We're really strong support at the moment. Really strong. Look at that on the weekly.
Actually, I'm thinking about buying that next week. Yeah, because I think we're going to have a year-end 5 to 8% run. And then
Okay, so I'm going to go down to the daily now. So we'll just increase that to 5 years. Okay, so yeah, so the center line is almost like your daily channel it's breaking out of. Right, so this really, really strong support level there, support zone, I should say. It's, you know, it's tested the center line of the channel, but we've closed back above it now. That's encouraging, but for me, it's really encouraging when we get above that pivot 100, 176, because that could form. Look at the ABC correction there. Okay, let's just look at the ABC correction. Okay, and the C waves hit our support level, and then we've bounced off. Like I said, now we are trading back in the range of A. That's a really good sign. But you don't really want to go long until you're above those pivots. But that's a good sign that when we talked about our ABC corrections here, we're back in that zone. Yeah, we're back in there. So the ABC correction is over. So now we just need to go through B. We're in. We're good. We're positive. So this is how, you know, again, this is a really good example that not necessarily going to be trading the Qs, but if you're looking at a lot of tech stocks, for example, we've had an ABC correction in the Qs. We've found support at the center line of the weekly channel. We have had an ABC. We're back into the range of A now. The ABC correction's over. We need to confirm that by going higher than the B. You can sort of, you know, then you'll be more confident looking for the longs. You'll be looking at around about 178.70, something like that. But for me, 178.70. But for me, I don't trade the Qs. I look at NQ or the Qs, and I if I was going to go long any tech stocks, I would use that as a gauge. If it broke that B pivot there, I'd be more comfortable. I'd be all warm and fuzzy doing some you know, going long in some tech stocks. If all of a sudden I got a few signals for some tech stocks long now, I'll be a bit hesitant. But if that was there for me through that B pivot, I'd be all guns blazing, really.
Do you think we're going to get a year-end rally this year? Down to
Santa Claus rally. It will all. I'll tell you what now. It will all depend on Apple. Nothing else. If Apple goes bullish, we will get a Santa Claus rally. So if everybody goes out and buys an iPhone right now, we will get a Santa Claus rally. It's that simple. Apple is such a big influence on the market right now. So yeah, we are looking for for Apple to project some really mega sales, I think, and for people to say this is good value now in Apple, so let's go. You know, and that's what we are. So let me just stop the recording. Yeah.